We will not bow down. Let my people go. We will not bow down. Let my people go. We will not bow down.
Well, thank you everybody for coming along this. I think it's now become slightly inclement outside, but it was a lovely day earlier. Thank you for coming along to Purley for this Croydon Constitutionalists event. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dan Heaton and I'm one of the founders of the Croydon Constitutionalists. Well, we had a general election a few months ago, didn't we? And Reform UK got, was it 5 MPs in the end, I think it was? Nigel Farage, big name, etc., etc., but nothing in the way of a branch structure until perhaps now. So what better time than to invite along to an event the newly inaugurated chairman of the Croydon and Sutton Reform UK branch, Scott Holman. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
So, Scott, firstly, can you just introduce yourself to our listeners and just tell us why you got involved with Reform UK and why are you going to be the chairman of the newly formed branch?
So, firstly, I got involved back during the Leave campaigns, back a long time ago, it feels now. And it was when I grew up in a household what always voted Labour. And it was that tradition, your mum and dad say, you vote Labour. And I thought to myself, that's not me. I want to know who I'm voting for, know why I'm voting and how it's going to benefit me. So I looked at that, I read the manifestos and I decided Labour definitely wasn't for me. And I've voted Conservative for my first ever vote. Then I looked a bit further into things and bits and that, and I found Nigel come along. And I fell in love with Nigel, with his charismatic attitude and how he was with politics and wanting to make a difference. And I joined a political party for my first time, and that was UKIP. And I got involved with the branch structure, their youth wing when I was a bit younger. It was called YI then, You Young Independents. So I got involved in that quite a lot. And then I was on the South East Committee with Gerald Gravitt, who at the time was the chairman at that committee. And then Nigel left UKIP, and that's the day I did as well. So without Nigel, the party was nothing and is still nothing without Nigel there. And then when Nigel formed the Brexit Party, I jumped straight back on board. I wanted to help him, and then he stepped away. I stayed in a bit after that, and I saw what Richard was doing. Richard has built this party and made it what it is here when Nigel left and walked away, and now he's come back. It's a real party. So that's why I stayed around, and that's sort of my story. I look after a business. I work full time. I saw no one was standing in Croydon at the time, and I was on that London committee, was trying to find candidates, and we just weren't finding the right one. So I stepped in and I said I would stand in Croydon East, and I had a great time doing it, to be honest. And after that, they saw, because I helped out in loads of other constituencies, getting the signatures, getting the nomination papers in all the way the other side of London, I got asked by now the regional director, Roger Gravitt, that is now for the Reform UK, if I would be the interim branch chairman for Croydon and Sutton, 2 combined areas at the moment, compiling of 5 constituencies, to see how it all went, set up initially. And that's where I am now. We've held our first branch meeting to see what the turnout was really and see who wanted to get involved. And I was overwhelmed with the response. And I'm still overwhelmed with the response I'm getting on a daily basis through that inbox, especially in 2 areas, what I didn't particularly think would be strong for us with membership or activists, but I was completely wrong.
Very good. So what positions are there in the branch, and which ones have been filled and which ones might you be looking to fill?
So there was some key positions we needed to fill on the in the branch structure. So chairman was obviously myself. Then there was a deputy chairman and a treasurer, a combined position, or we could have broken them out separately, a secretary, obviously. And then the other final one was a campaign manager. We have only filled 3 of the positions on our branch structure at the moment, and that is the chairman position, the deputy chair and treasurer, and the secretary, because the campaign manager for myself needs to be someone with a bit of experience and knows what they're doing. We did have applicants for the position, but it just wasn't right. It just, there was people wanting to get involved and stuff like that, but they need to know what campaigning's about, and that training I couldn't offer them with working and that. So we're still looking, but then we've also been given the freedom to also make other branch secretary positions or branch committee positions, like the head of a youth movement, basically, or something. We can add them positions as we see fit, but we've only first branch meeting in, we filled 3 positions. If anyone is interested and is a member of Reform and is an experienced campaign manager, please drop me an email. I would love to hear from you all.
Well, we'll put this out as a podcast, so you never know. You might get inundated with good applicants. So you mentioned the branch there. So the Reform membership nationally, but we're told it's now got to something like 90,000.
It's well over 90 now. Yeah.
Well, one can't keep up, obviously.
No.
So, roughly speaking, what are the numbers like in the Croydon and Sutton area?
So, Croydon and Sutton is, like I said, compiled of 5 constituencies at the moment: Croydon East, Croydon West, Croydon South, Carshalton and Wallington, and Sutton and Cheam. And we're hitting around 800 members. That's paying members in then 5 constituencies. But then, obviously, Reform have another thing called supporters. So supporters, you're adding another probably 3,500, 4,000 onto that as well. What have signed up on their mailing list, what are supporters. But our membership in these constituencies is growing on a daily basis. The conference saw, I think it was 4,000 people join the day after the conference. I would say we are the fastest growing political party, and it's going to continue to grow. And before the year's out, it'll be well over 100,000, the membership.
Yeah, I would think so.
It's on about 98 last time I looked. So we've got an internal system we can look on, and it gives us the membership number, the paying membership numbers. But you do get up and down where someone decides not to renew or don't have the £25 to renew sometimes. And it's a live system what constantly updates, but we are
to put that into perspective for our listeners, my recollection was that at its absolute height, UKIP had something like about 40 to 45,000 at absolute height, which would have been before the referendum, 2014, 2015 sort of time. So it's at least double that, at least, and as you say, growing. So that is interesting to know. Obviously, Reform UK, national party, it's had some national policies, early days, but sort of what sort of policies do you think you might be coming out with in terms of Croydon and Sutton, particularly relevant to those areas?
So we have to stick with the contract with the people, and we called it a contract because it's not like any other political party's manifesto, because as we've just seen in the Labour manifesto, they've gone back on it straight away, half of their points, and they're not keeping to it. They've lied to us all, and they got elected. The biggest one for me is getting that cost of living crisis. I know people don't agree with the words cost of living crisis at the moment, but I do believe it is a crisis for us. We are all taxed far too much. We're all paying far too much. So that is what's going to be happening. Will go really well for Croydon. If people have got more in their pocket for themselves, that will improve any area. That's how it goes with everything. You got a bit of extra money for your household. You do up your house, it becomes nicer. You got more money in your pocket. You can take your kids out further. But people are living to the breadline at the moment. So that one is probably the main one for me, what I feel most passionate about. But crime is another one where every political party has been weak on crime through the years. It's we need to bring back that stop and searches, really, really going going hard and real punishments for these criminals on our streets. And as we know, Croydon has got quite a high crime rate at the moment, but it's got quite a high reoffending rate as well. So punishments aren't really being taken seriously by these criminals.
Yeah, I mean, early days, but one of the things that certainly in Croydon, perhaps I'm sure it's an issue in Sutton as well, but let's be clear, it's a big issue in Croydon, is the council tax rate, because it's going to keep going up and up and up. So, in due course, in probably 18 months' time, something like that, when there's local elections in Croydon, hopefully there'll be some robust policies on how we can get the at least stop increases in Croydon's council tax after it went bust.
It's stopping increases,
Yeah.
but it's a proper investment into our communities as well. We need investment in these communities, not just saying we're going to up the council tax and keep it for ourselves. And we need investment in our communities to make our communities safer, stronger and more united. So I think investment is the biggest thing.
Okay, so Reform UK got 5 MPs. However, there was another party with a red rosette that got quite a few more MPs, notwithstanding the share of the vote. We've not got all night. What are your thoughts so far on the first, roughly speaking, 100 days of the Labour government?
Well, as Keir Starmer said, showed us in PMQs as well, he doesn't even know he's Prime Minister at the moment. It's really that. It's been a disaster, really, hasn't it? Everything they said during the general election campaign, they've gone back on. And the people, they meant to be the party, well, they call themselves the party of the working class. Are they really looking after the working class? So the thing what really hurt me was taking away that winter fuel allowance. I know it's not big for a lot of people, but I have an elderly parent. My mum has all her elderly friends, all of that. Well, get that. We're not all from rich families and all of that, and it really hurt me. But also spending money where we didn't really need to be spending. We need to be firm and actually build the economy like they said they wanted to. Get us out of this so-called black hole the Conservatives left us in, but they've spent more than they've saved. So the spending for Labour has been the disaster for me, and I just now think they've shown their true face of not being the party for the working class. That's where I see it.
Well, obviously there's the budget coming up, so...
He's already warned us at the moment, this is going to be a tough budget to deliver. It's going to hurt a lot of us here. It's we can only see, can't we? And can we all afford it? No.
So, what do you think of the great Blue Hope? They're down to 2 now in the never-ending story that is the Conservative Party leadership campaign. We've got Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenrick. What do you think of the things that they've been coming out with in the last few weeks?
So they're trying to, one's trying to really go to the reform line, really, aren't we? And to bring back them reform voters. The Conservatives, the biggest party the Conservatives are afraid of now is reform, because that's where their votes are going. It's their votes are going. People still voted for the Conservatives in the last general election because they was afraid if they didn't, Labour would get in. But as Nigel said throughout the whole election, this election has already been decided before you went to that polling station. Labour was going to win no matter what. It was a done deal. The Tory party is a forever car crash, isn't it? It's never going to get better until the next general election. I can see us having another 4 Conservative leaders since then. It's not going to last. There's too much infighting. People want to be. It's all about themselves, and that's what the Conservative Party. You're meant to be elected to represent the people and represent your constituents. But they don't. They represent themselves. There's a few good eggs in the Conservative Party. I'm not saying they're all bad. But a lot of them are in it for themselves. And they're in it for themselves only. And that's where reform is different. Each one of them candidates, Nigel has been in politics for many, many years. He has fought for the issues. of the United Kingdom. He's fought toe-to-toe throughout the years. Richard's been involved many years fighting for them. James got quite lucky. Obviously, it was... I don't even think James expected to win and on that. And then Rupert, even when you look at what Rupert's doing with his salary, his parliamentary salary is getting donated to different causes in his constituency every month. So if you don't think them MPs are there for their constituents, I don't know what MPs are.
Interesting you say that some of the Conservative candidates are, trying to focus on reformish type policies in order to, because you believe they're trying to get the reform voters back, if you like. But what do you think about Labour, though? Because when I look at the political map, actually, Reform is second to Labour in a lot of places, particularly the Red Wall as it became known. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out, because I think Nigel maybe even said that he thinks more votes are going to come from Labour areas in due course.
A Labour voter would never normally vote Conservative. It's very rare you'll see that happen. You see it crossing the path some of the time. But you will see a traditional Conservative voter either vote for Reform or vote for Labour. You do see that swing quite a lot. And their votes need to come back from us at the moment. Labour's imploding themselves anyway, so I'm not worried about Labour. Their votes are gone. Like I said earlier when we was having a conversation just by the bar there, if we ran the general election again tomorrow, we would be seeing a completely different result. And I'd put money on it. I don't even think Labour would have won a general election if we run it again tomorrow. It's because the country has seen what they're truly like, their true colours.
Oh, interesting. So obviously the branch is now up and running, early days, but it's now up and running. So what plans have you got?
So as you just said, the branches are very new. We're just in the process of setting them up, and we are getting guidance off the party at the moment, and there's been a complete restructure within the party to democratise the party. And setting up these grassroots campaigns and branches isn't an easy job. You're getting them committee members together, forming that structure. But then now my thing is, what collateral do I give to our constituents? What volunteering things I can get them to do? I've got people emailing me every day asking for leaflets at the moment to deliver through the door. But I literally moved to New Allington in February this year. So I really need to look at what the local issues are. I need to be told by my constituents at the moment what their local issues are, because we don't want to build a generic leaflet and just throw it through the doors. We want to build a real campaign and know where our voters are. So we're not going to rush into this. Yes, there is a generic London leaflet being made at the moment. What we can give people who are itching to go out and do some stuff. We're going to do that. But we want to build a real campaign strategy for every ward, really, for the local elections coming up. I've got the task of finding however many candidates for our local elections what are coming up. As you reminded me earlier as well, the Croydon mayoral election is going to come up as well. So we need to find them right candidates. They need to go through the right vetting. So in terms of activities, I am trying to support any by-election what is coming up across London at the moment. And I'm urging any of our members in Croydon and Sutton to support them by-elections. The more people we get elected, the more powerful we are as a political party, and the more well-known we are. We will have by-elections in Croydon. We will have by-elections in Sutton. We will try and challenge them all, but I need the candidates to do that. And I need them early, because as we've democratised the party, we've also increased our vetting. Our vetting process for the party is now very rigorous. It's a solid process. What we have to vet every candidate who stands for us and interview them and go through that process. So in regards to activities, we've got very few at the moment, but we're building. The next activity, what we have got coming up, if you are a Reform UK member or a supporter, we're allowing to the next branch meeting, is our next branch meeting next Tuesday. Drop me an email and I'll tell you the venue as this goes out publicly. I wouldn't want to do that. I'd have to cross-reference you on our database. But Ben Habib is coming to speak. Our London Assembly member, Alex Wilson, will be there. And our Reform Regional Director, Roger Gravitt, is going to be there to tell you a bit more about the infrastructure and the plans, what we're doing. The big event, what is coming up, only open to Reform UK members, is the Christmas party. London is having a big Christmas do. I don't know if anyone here has got tickets, but we put this on sale, the group, what was running the event, and we was astonished. So we've had to change the venue. But it's round the corner, so don't worry. But that venue only holds 200 people. The response, then tickets were sold out within a day. So London's going to have one of the biggest Christmas parties coming up end of November. So if anyone wants to do that, you have to be a member to buy one. Just come along, enjoy that, because we will have a few special guests that night. I'll say no more then, but it'll be quite a nice night for us all.
Sounds good. So if people want to email you, what's the best email address to get?
So best email address for me is my old constituency email address at the moment, croydoneast@reformuk.com. So that's croydoneast@reformuk.com. Drop me an email and I try and get back to you as much as I can. Or if they contact yourselves, you can pass on any messages or questions for me.
Absolutely. We'll do, and we'll put that email address in the description when we post the podcast. So it'll be there in front of people. Well, some very interesting ideas you've got there. It certainly sounds as if you've got some plans. Heck of a lot of work to do.
Yes.
But no, certainly exciting times for Reform UK, obviously, and it sounds like it's going pretty well in Croydon and Sutton.
It really is. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you ever so much for your time. Cheers.
Thank you.